Alright y'all, today we're going to cover the Path of Giants Barbarian class in Baldur's Gate 3. Now this is for the stress test for patch 8, so technically a beta still. Let's not waste any time. I want to do a follow-up on the Swarmkeeper because I think it's better as a melee ranger rather than being a ranged ranger, which sounds pretty funny when I say it out loud. But anyways, let's jump in game. So here in game, really quick with the Swarmkeeper. Level 3 ranger, so we don't have that improved swarm that you get at level 11. So when we go ahead and attack Karlach, we're in bee form. And one of the things that I think is bugged, which is ironic because we're talking about bees, is this knockback. So if we do it on Karlach there, she actually gets thrown and knocked back. In my video, she just goes prone. Prone is like the upgraded version of the knockback. But when it comes to the other two swarms, they get an additional effect. So shocked, it gets disarmed. Blind, it gets slow. And so the bee one here should be getting knockback plus prone, because that knockback functionality is actually really helpful for knocking enemies off ledges and stuff like that. I'm not saying being prone is bad, it's just I think we should be having both of those effects at the same time for the improved version. And one last note here, so for the regular attack, just how the damage breaks down here. If we do the Legion of Bees attack, which is the same for all the swarm types, you can see here that we hit them for 6, and then you can see the dice breakdown right there. That's our normal weapon attack. And then it does a 1d6. So this is part of the bees. That's the toggle that you pick there, the attack version. If we have Hunter's Mark on Karlach here, so we put Hunter's Mark on her, and then we attack again, and we do the same attack there, we then get 2 procs of extra damage. So there's the Legion of Bees attack, which is the 1d6 piercing, and then the Praise Scent, which is another 1d6. And you can see in our weapon damage there, at the end there, that's where your Hunter's Mark damage goes. So when it comes to these swarms and the added damage, if you have Hunter's Mark, you get that proc of damage, you get the proc of damage of the Legion, the swarm attack, and then because you have Hunter's Mark on, you get Praise Scent as well. This is a lot of damage that is adding up. And then when you hit level 11, you get that improved attack toggle for your swarm. This 1d6 is the one that gets turned to a 1d8. So that's just a quick follow-up to the Swarmkeeper as far as like numbers and how those are breaking down, because when I put out these videos, I want to do a follow-up if I think I missed something or I think something needs like further explaining. And we will have a Swarmkeeper in the gameplay section, so you'll see what I mean by the fact that the double status effect isn't applying to the bees version, but it will work for something like the moth version. So let's go ahead and jump into Barbarian. So in character creator here, we're going with Barbarian. I hope you guys like being an absolute bully and throwing shit around, because that is what this subclass is all about. Now, if you want to be really optimized with your ability points here, you would actually dump strength, focus on using an elixir to bump up your strength, because that is going to be our main like damage stat. But then you just put the rest of your points into dexterity, constitution, and stuff like that. You don't really need to focus on strength. But for this video, we're going to assume that you are not using the elixir of strength, which is going to work out completely fine. So we're going to keep that at 17, dexterity 14 is good, and then constitution at 16, that works as well, wisdom 10, this looks fine. Let's go ahead and move to level 2. So level 2, we don't pick up anything new yet, we get danger sense here, and then we also get our reckless attack. Let's move on to level 3, where we will pick up our new subclass. So new subclass here is Giant. Technically, I think it's supposed to be called Path of the Giants, but before we jump to the subclass real quick, you'll notice that my race here, I'm picking a Dwagar for this enlarge feature. And the subclass Giant here is going to have basically a functionality to enlarge themselves. So we're going to see how big you can make a character, or if it even works at all. But moving back to Giant, the subclass here is you walk the path of the Giants, invoking their elemental might and size by drawing strength from the same primal forces as them. It seems very thematic, especially when we start breaking down what they can do. So our first subclass feature here is Vapric's Greed. So your carry capacity is increased by a quarter. This I think is actually entirely useless, because if you are a barbarian, you're probably leaning into strength anyways, and your carrying capacity is already pretty good. So not the best subclass feature, and I feel like a lot of people just use mods to make sure that like consumables and gold don't weigh anything anyway, so not the best subclass feature there. But the action you get here, Giant's Rage. So let's take a look at the tooltip. So for the tooltip here, enter a rage and increase in size. Your rage damage bonus is doubled on throw attacks. So that's really what we're going to be focusing on here. Additionally, we gain resistance to physical damage and advantage on strength checks and saving throws. And this lasts for 10 turns. Your rage will end if you don't attack an enemy, and then we can't cast or concentrate on spells while raging. And this will cost us 1 rage charge, and it's a bonus action. So pretty standard for all the other barbarian subclasses. So what I'm really going to be comparing this to is Berserker, because they get that enraged throw, which lets us use our bonus action to perform another throw. This is really strong in the early game, and it stays strong actually throughout the game. I think throwing barbarians in general are just like one of the strongest builds to play because you don't need a lot of gear and it just performs really well. So I'm excited to get to the gameplay section. Let's move on to level 4 where it's going to be pretty obvious what feat we pick. We don't get anything else. So feat wise, we're going with Tavern Brawler. We're going to bump our strength up to 18. Obviously, if you're going to rely on an elixir of Hill Giant strength or Cloud strength, you'd be maybe wanting to put Constitution instead, but we're not using an elixir for this video. So let's move on to level 5. Level 5 is when we pick up our extra attack as a martial character, and we also get fast movement. We're not going to be wearing basically any armor for this, so this should apply to us. And then we gain an additional action for our subclass here, and this is Boot of the Giants. So this does 1 damage, which might be like, okay, well that's not great. But really, I think this is like an RP type of move here, and it is a bonus action. Keep that in mind as well. So let's just read the tooltip here. Try and kick a target away. Your chances depend on your athletics and are higher if you are hidden or invisible. Well, hidden or invisible, I don't know. Does that really kind of fit into a barbarian class fantasy? Maybe hidden. But anyways, moving on. You can kick targets up to twice the weight that shoving would allow them. So if we look at shove real quick, the shove distance is dependent on your strength and the target's weight. We're already focusing on a good bit of strength, and then this Boot of the Giants will do double that. So this is probably going to get a little silly, and I do love the fact that this is a bonus action. So I'm already getting actually pretty excited about how this is going to look in the gameplay section. I think it's going to be hilarious. So let's keep moving on. I'm getting really excited for that. At level 6 here, we pick up a class feature. We get an additional rage. These come back on long rest. But we also pick up the action Elemental Cleave. So let's look at the tooltip here. Channel Primordial Might into your weapon. Until the end of your rage, your weapon deals additional acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. So we're going to pick one of those elementals. And then additionally, we get the thrown property. So basically, when we throw a weapon, it'll come back to us. Kind of like how Eldritch Knights can bind their weapon and it'll return to them. So this is just a nice intrinsic feature here. And then at the end there, yeah, it just says, if thrown, it will immediately reappear in your hand. And then this lasts for 10 turns. And it doesn't look like this is an action. So as long as we're raging, we will basically be able to change our elemental type. That is really handy. Anyways, let's move on to level 7. So level 7, every barbarian picks up Feral Instinct. This is pretty good. It basically gives us like a mini alert. So let's go ahead and move on to level 8, where we will have another feat. And we're just gonna pick up Savage Attacker. If I remember correctly, Savage Attacker does work with throwing weapons. So all Savage Attacker does is it rolls 2 dice and you just pick the highest result. So I really don't think I need to sell too many of you on Savage Attacker. Overall, this is a damage increase. It just may not be as flashy as like bigger numbers, but just know you are getting higher damage numbers when taking Savage Attacker. So with that pick, let's go ahead and move on to level 9. So at level 9, we do pick up a class feature here, Brutal Critical. So when we land a critical hit, you roll an extra damage dice as well as the normal additional critical dice. So just more damage when we critical. Barbarians do a crap ton of damage. Again, and most of it's like intrinsically, we're not even talking about gear yet. So let's go ahead and move on to level 10. So level 10, we pick up something pretty funny here. We get Mighty Impel. So let's take a look at the tooltip here. Throw a creature or object that is medium-sized or smaller. Heavier creatures and objects deal more damage on impact. So you bet your ass, and it's a bonus action, so you bet your ass in the gameplay section, we're going to be utilizing this and then kicking things. This is why I said at the beginning, I hope you all like to basically be a bully and an absolute menace in the battlefield, or I should say on the battlefield. But let's go ahead and move on to level 11 and just finish up this leveling process. We pick up Relentless Rage. Everybody gets this once per short rest. If you drop below 0 hit points while enraged, we basically get an additional hit point and instead of being down. So that's helpful, a little bit of survivability. And then for our last level here, level 12, we get an additional rage charge. And then for our feet, we're already pretty good. Let's just go ahead and bump our strength up to 20, or maybe our dexterity. Let's just go with strength for right now. And then let's get into that gameplay section. All right, and then for the gameplay section here, let's just take a quick look at gear. I'm going to put on all this gear right here for the big fight, but I just want to show basically like base numbers. I'm just using a little dagger, and then the chest piece here doesn't really add anything except wrath for 1 turn, which admittedly it adds 1 bonus damage to our melee weapons. So not much going on as far as gear. So we're just going to piss off these people real quick so we can kind of show the base version of this. So we just kicked them. That's funny. We'll get better shots of the kick, by the way. So we're gonna look at that damage log really quick. So for the kick, it's supposed to do 1 damage, and obviously it kicks them. But with Tavern Brawler, it adds another +5 to the damage modifier on top of your regular strength modifier. So Tavern Brawler is synergizing with that kick. That's why Tavern Brawler is exceptionally good for Barbarians. But since we did that kick, we do have to wait a turn to use Giant's Rage. But as a Dwagar, we can sit here and enlarge. So we get a little bit bigger, and then when we rage, it also says you're going to double in size, or you're going to increase your size. So we'll see if that works. Let's go ahead and skip our turn. We do have our Swarm Keeper here. And I also want to see if Conjure Barrage, the melee version here, if it will basically proc the Swarm feature. So that did not work on them. I didn't think it would. Let's just go ahead and skip that turn, and we'll let them go. And so it's our Barbarian's turn again. Let's go ahead and use Giant's Rage. No, we did not get even bigger. So a little bit of a letdown there. I think that's just a small thing. So the next thing we can really show off is Elemental Cleaver here. So you click on there and you pick your damage type. So obviously you want to pick a damage type that's going to synergize with the battlefield. But let me show you something here. So I do thunder damage. So now my dagger is imbued with a 1d6 for thunder, and that lasts for 10 turns. What you'll notice here is that I can still change my elemental whenever I want, and it doesn't cost a resource or anything. So I could change it to lightning. And again, you can just keep changing the elemental type. It's really handy. But how about let's see how much damage we're gonna do when we just throw, say, our simple dagger here. And we crit, so that helps. So if we take a quick look at the log here, you can see that Tavern Brawler is helping our attack rolls, and then you can see our strength modifier and the additional 2 rages. So that's 4 rages total, and I think they say that over here. Yeah, so Giant's Rage there, as far as the status effect goes. Raging, you deal 3 damage with melee and improvised weapons. I think that just means when you hit a target normally with your melee weapon, and then 4 damage when you throw an object. So since we threw our dagger, I think that's the 2 additional rages at the end there. I don't know why they're split up 2 and 2. And then if we move on to the Elemental Cleaver damage there, you can see that it does the same 2 and 2 rage damage there as well. And then moving to Tavern Brawler, it procs twice. I don't know if that's a bug, but I think that's how it works in the live version as well. So that is a crap ton of damage. And again, I just threw a dagger. We can also throw the dagger again. Let's go find the other target. He's hiding over here. I actually want to wait a turn, and I want to kick him first, or I want to pick him up and throw him somewhere. So let's go ahead and just skip our turns here. All right, I messed up the turn order because he skipped a turn and then put me out of rage. I don't want to kill him, so let's do a normal attack there. And actually, let's look and see. So I did a normal attack actually just to keep in rage because I kind of messed up the turn order. But you can see that we get a +3 rage there. And yes, that is lining up with how Giant's Rage here is broken down. So that seems to be working as intended. I don't know why that 4 damage for throwing objects is split up to 2 and 2. If I'm missing something there, let me know. And I really just want to pick this guy up, or I want to kick him. Both sound pretty fun. Let's just pick him up, and we'll just throw him at the face over here. Holy crap, that's fun. That's funny. That's good. So damage wise, you can see that Tavern Brawler is added to our attack roll, and the throw damage there is just, again, with our strength modifier. And then it looks like it split that rage damage as well. You can see it's 2 and 2 there. Tavern Brawler proccing there again. Tavern Brawler, that's the 2 that you see at the end over here. So that was a good bit of damage. I'm wondering if what he hit is this damage here at the end. I think it is. So that's sort of like the numbers breakdown. As you can see, very, very strong. I'm just gonna throw my dagger at him to finish him off. But now let's actually put on some good throwing equipment that you get really early in Act 1, except for Nyrulna here. This is in Act 3. Trident. This is a great throwing weapon in general. This has that return feature intrinsically, so we're not really benefiting from that subclass feature, but anyways, it's a really good throwing weapon. So we're gonna equip that. We're gonna pop our Elixir of Bloodlust. We're gonna pop a Potion of Speed when we get in combat, and we're gonna absolutely just wipe the floor. We didn't get first in the turn order, but we're pretty early on. So really my thoughts with this build overall, or I say this subclass overall, is it's pretty damn good at doing something I think Barbarians were already doing pretty well, but it seems like this whole subclass is just centered around that. So let's pick an elemental type. Let's just go with Thunder. I like Thunder and I like Lightning. And then when we throw our weapon here, 95% chance to hit. Nirulna, it does an area effect there. You can see all the damage proccing here on the side, as well as the additional AoE damage from the trident. And then we get to throw again, and it'll probably kill. Yes, very, very strong. And because we have Elixir of Bloodlust, we can just keep throwing. Unless we hit something, chair or body. I'm not sure what it actually just hit right there. Let's move aside and let's get another throw off. We hit ourselves a little bit. That's okay. But a very, very strong, admittedly simple subclass. You could build it different ways, but I just think the throwing fantasy is definitely there in line with that subclass. Let's pop our potion and then I get our swarm into the mix because I want to show off the 2 status effects. We'll go ahead and critical. So you can see with the Flurry of Moths here, the mighty blinding swarm, right there in the tooltip, it says blind and slow. So those are 2 pretty good conditions. They saved on their throw, which kind of stinks. It's based off of your wisdom modifier. So having high wisdom with Swarmkeeper, if you want to get those status effects off, is pretty important. Something I'd like to see with this build or with this subclass is if you fail, maybe being able to proc it again, because it feels bad to miss that proc there and then have to wait for the next turn to have the subclass feature basically you to be able to use it again. So now we're actually just going to cast Spike Growth here. It does not upscale, so we can just do whatever spell we have or spell slot we have, which is level 2. And I guess really the last thing about Swarmkeeper that I kind of want to mention is it definitely builds into a fantasy of like kind of like a wood elf, something like that. And I tend to pick like humans, so that's why the fantasy really just, it's not working for me. But I do think it's very strong as far as those attack procs, in addition to Hunter's Mark. I think that is really strong for early game and mid game. And obviously if you put a bunch of equipment on them as far as like damaging equipment, I think their damage can actually go a long way. You just got to work for it a little bit. But now it's our Barbarian's turn again. Let's go ahead and just give, oh man, I don't want to kick a wolf, but I guess we'll do it. Just kick the wolf there. Oh, that felt bad. But great animation. Love it. And then we'll just throw our trident. Hit ourselves, that's okay, but the area effect damage from it, really good. And then we can just keep throwing. And it just, I should have moved away, but it's not a big deal. And just a lot of damage proccing. Really strong. This was already a very strong build. I just think it's even stronger, or as strong, with the Path of Giants Barbarian here. I did just skip a turn because I want to get another turn or another swing in at this for the blind and slow effect, so you can see that. So yeah, you can see it succeeded there. And now they are blinded and they are slowed. So a little bit of a melee debuffer. I would love it to be tweaked a little bit, but and maybe it was a little harsh on it in its full subclass review, or impressions I should say. The last thing I want to do is just pick this sucker up. Actually, let's move our ranger over here. We're having a little fun now. How dare you, Mr. Nomad, have fun in a video game? Yeah, I know. Pick you up and let's throw you at the ranger. That's just funny. That's just good fun. That's just good, honest fun, let me tell you. So, impressions about the Path of Giants Barbarian. I like this a lot. This is very strong. This is very strong with very little gear. You give it gear, and it goes into the realm of just maybe borderline overpowered. I don't know. It's a lot of fun. I love the kick feature here. I love being able to pick up targets and throw them. Now, obviously, before you could pick up targets and throw them, but this is built into this subclass to do it even better. So overall, big fan of this subclass. We have one more subclass to cover, and that is the Glamour Bards. And I gotta tell you, fucking bards, you guys think you can just do everything the best and play your musical instruments and be really happy? Well, your day of reckoning is coming soon. I will see you then, everybody. Peace and take care.